Said, Sangeeta, it's so good to see you after all these years, and you're looking so good.
Yeah,
and I'm really
for an old guy with Parkinson's.
Well, yeah, we'll let them know about that and everything. And welcome very much to Conversation. Pleasure to welcome to Conversations a dear friend of mine for on to these nearly 40 years and so forth, in from San Francisco area, the Berkeley area, and that being Sangeeta Michael Berardi. And he is a jazz musician, has been throughout his career. He's had a very interesting life. He's here on the East Coast briefly, and we're so happy we're able to get him into the studio. And Sangeeta, welcome so very much to my set.
And I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I want to say, well, let's say right at the outset, you've got this problem with the Parkinson's now, so people will see you...
If I appear to be playing invisible maracas, it's only because I can't control my hands.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to distract anyone.
Yeah.
And also my jaw goes sometimes, and sometimes my voice is affected.
Yeah, the meds help, I guess, right? They got medicine.
Well, the meds that I take help with the body stiffness.
Yeah,
But I'm in the 40% of people who it does not help with the tremors.
I see. Okay, well, like you say, you're really made for maracas, man.
That's
you know?
it. I mean, big demand in San Francisco with the salsa culture.
Yeah, I should think so. Anyway, as you know, the way I do, we got 58 minutes, right? And we're going to show some. We're going to play some music from the CD of yours, and so because you're in music, and also we're going to show some of your art and try and get as much as we can into this 58-minute program. Share with the audience, please, your background. That's what I do, is the way to wait in, born and raised, and then we'll talk about that and show some of your art and so forth. But where were you drug up, young man?
I was born September 2nd, 1939.
Okay.
In Waterbury, Connecticut. My father had been born in Brooklyn by the Williamsburg Bridge. And my mother was born in Italy. But my grandpa on my father's side probably wanted to get closer to the earth because they were all peasants.
Yeah, okay.
They had gardens, and so they all moved up to Connecticut. But so many of them moved up there that there was actually a section of town in Waterbury called Brooklyn.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting, yeah.
And so I grew up mostly there, but they started taking me to New York when I was 3. And my mother loved to tell this story where they came down for, a nice night on the town, a nice restaurant, and they were going to finally get to hear Sammy Kaye.
Oh, yes.
Swing and Sway with Sammy Kaye.
That's right.
Live, something they had wanted to do. Well, I racked her up at the restaurant. She said, I got up on the table and started singing and dancing. And she said she sat me between them and I crawled under the table. So we finally make it to the theater where Sammy Kaye was. And before the show starts, I'm acting up. So the usher comes over and says, "Ma'am, you better keep that child quiet, or you're going to have to leave."
Yeah.
So she said, "Well, we'll take care of it, So, of course, I continue to act up being me. And
you've been acting up all your life, if I'm not mistaken.
So. I think so. And so it gets to be showtime, the lights go down, and I start up again. Now, personally, I think if she had taken me to hear Duke Ellington, I would have been totally silent and mesmerized. I mean, all of my life...
At 3, you were into Ellington, right?
All of my life, I disliked Swing and Sway.
No, you didn't like Swing,
So anyway, I act up, and the usher comes over and says, "Ma'am, you better keep that child quiet or you have to leave." So I turned and looked at him at 3 and said, "Shut up, you son of a bitch."
And you're 3?
3 years old.
3 years old.
Or in Italian, when people get embarrassed.
Did you say it in English or in Italian?
English.
Oh, in English, okay.
But my mother would tell the story and say, "You made a scumbadi," which is, so embarrassed. Wonderful word.
Yeah, and so they were into Sammy Kaye, and you were into Ellington at 3, huh?
Yeah, well, she says, too, that when Alexander's Ragtime Band used to play, which was very popular in the 20s.
Yeah.
Dixieland, you know, high energy.
Right.
She said I would dance in the playpen starting from when I was maybe 1.
Really?
She said, and I had taken it into my little head that I would dance until the music stopped. And it was a very long piece of music. And she said, I'd dance and I'd reach a point where I was exhausted and I wanted to stop, but I had to make it to the end. So I'd be crying and dancing.
There's a metaphor in there somewhere,
I think so.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for your life, right?
I think so, because my life has taken a strange span.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had uncles who were, so to speak, connected.
Yeah, connected to...
The mob, you know.
Okay. I
They got so big in Connecticut after a while that some of the boys came up from Maud or Elizabeth, I don't know. My Uncle Frankie, I tried to find out which family he was associated with.
Yeah.
Because I came up against a little trouble last time I was living here in Manhattan. And I thought, well, let me make it plain to this gentleman that I'm of so-and-so and such and such.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So I called my mother and sister. I said, Ma, call Uncle Frank and ask him which family. He'll know. She called him and he said, what, are you crazy? And he hung up. So I called him. And he said, are you involved with those sons of bitches? I said, no. I said, I just want to know. But I was coming up against one of those guys.
Yeah. And, you're writing your memoirs now, I understand.
Yes.
That's really good. That's really good.
Let's see, I've written about 300 pages, 8 stories worth. There's 2 set in Manhattan in the 80s. There's one from the 70s in San Francisco. And there's a couple when I was an altar boy in Connecticut.
An altar boy, a young boy, young. Because the 80s, you were a grown man. We were in touch then. You were
definitely.
Frankie was here, Frankie
used to come to my loft on 25th.
You had that place on 26th, right? In 7th Avenue?
Between 25th and 26th.
Right you are, that's right.
A tiny little block.
Yeah, but it was a great loft because it was a practically abandoned building in a part of town where there were hardly nobody living, and you had all the instruments for jazz music making there in your loft.
Yes, and the thing was, when I left California, when I left San Francisco and moved back to Manhattan, where I lived before I went to California.
Yeah, we got to go back and pick that up because the last time we left you, you were dancing to Alexander's Ragtime Band under a table somewhere with Sammy Kaye.
Yeah, but what we got to pick up is the memoir.
There was something going on between 3 and 1980 in New York.
You think so?
I think there must have been quite a few things going on.
Let me just jump back to the memoir for a second because my dear friend Joe St. George, who happens to be sitting in a chair nearby, when he heard I was writing memoirs, he said, I've got a title for you.
What's the title?
Memoirs of a Gangster Guru.
Gangster Guru, that's
so good. I wrote a preface that went something like, if you're reading this, my title worked. But I'm sorry if you think you're going to find Gotti and Gandhi in here. I'm not on that level.
You're not on that level.
But my life has unfolded in both of those worlds, and sometimes simultaneously.
Yeah, and which of the 2 worlds? I've missed it.
Gotti and Gandhi.
Gotti and Gandhi. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, right.
Because I grew up around... the only people I saw getting over were the gangsters. Then there were people like my father, who was a virtual factory slave.
Yeah, like so many.
Miserable, driven to drink, driven to distraction. He slipped out a couple of times. And I, at that time, became the sole support of the family.
I see, yeah.
While I was going to high
now,
school.
Now, where were you drug up in high school and all that? Where were you?
Waterbury, Connecticut.
Waterbury, Connecticut. So that's where you were as a young man and all that.
Yeah, and I remember as a very young boy walking with my father in the downtown area.
Of Waterbury.
Of Waterbury.
Yeah.
And there were the remnants of big posters that had been pasted on the fences and the walls and the bricks. And I remember asking once, I said, oh, that's when the burlesque was big here.
Uh-huh.
And much later I read an article that revealed that Waterbury used to be known as the Sin City.
Really?
Because the farmers from Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire who were afraid of New York.
Too big.
And it was a little too far to go.
Yeah.
They would come to Waterbury.
Right. Okay.
And so there was every hustle you can imagine.
Right. Okay. And you were raised in Waterbury.
And I was raised in more or less in that milieu.
So at a certain level, that was a happening place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were, for a place of only, let's see, it was about 110, 115,000 people.
Right.
About the size of Berkeley.
Yeah, that's where you're now in that area.
Yeah, only it was much rougher edge.
Rougher edge, yeah, right.
I used to describe it as factories and bars.
Factories and bars.
Interspersed with funeral parlors.
Yeah, right. The funeral parlor business is a steady business, yeah.
And you never go out of business.
Never go out of business, yeah, right.
But, so, you know, it had at any given time a number of clubs where you could play jazz.
Okay, now you were picking up on music. Jazz been a big part of your life and all that and everything. You were picking that up as a young man, high school time, were you picking up on the music? Did you get down to New York from time to time?
Yes, when I was 14 years old, I went to my friend Joey Gallo, not the Joey Gallo. And I said, look, you wear glasses, I wear glasses. Give me your driver's license.
What?
So that I could go to New York and hear Charlie Parker.
Yeah.
He said, what are you, crazy? But he said in Italian, Tuesday Paltz. And I said, no, why? He said, I'm 5'11" and you're a goddamn midget. You know, so, but I got the license and I used to come down with the older cat.
You used his license to drive?
No, not to drive,
to
get in the clubs.
To get in. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're underage.
Yeah, I was 14.
I see. And you got into the clubs at 14. That's good. That's a lot of do. We used to have to come all the way from Detroit to get to New York to get beer at 18 or something. But you were way ahead of the curve, as they say, as always.
Well, at another point in my life as a teenager, I used to ride with a bunch of my friends. We had motorcycles. I had a 1940 Harley.
Yeah.
And we used to go to Brewster,
New York.
Where our dear friend Frank
Patrickolo, God bless him, yeah.
We used to ride our bikes up to there from Connecticut because we could drink, or if we had fake ID, they didn't care.
Yeah. And you're coming up in Waterbury, and so you're going to school? You're going to school, like elementary. Did you speak Italian in the family, and do you know Italian? Or do you know from Italian, or just a few words, or what?
I hung out with some very dear old friends a couple of nights ago.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at how much was coming back.
The Italian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the dialect phrases that we all knew. Like stata bon, stay well. Like when you're leaving, somebody say stata bon.
Stata say.
Well, my friend Anthony was hugging me and said, Montana Fort. And I said, do you know what that means? Now, if he asked me without saying...
Stone Mountain? No, I don't know.
No, it's like maintain strength.
Oh, okay,
stay strong. But it all comes back when I get around it.
And you spoke that as you were graduating.
Well, when I was very
young. And in the family, around the table, did Italian come up and stuff? And it was of the Italian kind?
Well, you know, my grandmother never spoke English. If she did, she spoke her own brand. For instance, like Groucho Marx, it was Roger Marx. And she loved him. She watched the show every day. She loved wrestling. Gorgeous George.
You're Gorgeous George. I remember he was blonde.
Yeah.
I remember Gorgeous
Haystack at Calhoun.
Yeah.
So my uncles, they were involved in everything.
Yeah.
So when the pro wrestlers or boxers would come to Waterbury, they'd come to a particular arena. It escapes me now the name. But we would take Grandma. And she would get excited and she'd stand up the whole wrestling match and she'd yell at the referee, "Referee, referee, referee, you bad, you see him do that? Stop it at haystack academy."
Wonderful, wonderful.
She got on this referee's case so heavy one night that he said, "Jesus Christ, lady, give me a break."
Hey, I get that into your memoir.
Oh, yeah.
But you're in the school, right?
Yes.
And then you've also, I heard you hint at there may have been some wise guys around and stuff, and there were family, and there were, Black Hand or something.
That's what we saw. I mean, I saw my father totally unhappy. I saw my Uncle Frank, who started out at age 14 running a jackhammer, building roads in Connecticut, and was deformed wrists from that. And then he worked, he got exploited X number of times. And then he took a job with Ringling Brothers. And he traveled with
Wrangler or what?
They used to call them butchers, the guys who sold the soda.
Oh.
And so he traveled like that, and then at one point, he hooked up with someone, I don't know who, somewhere in Texas, who was running crap games. And he said to Frankie, who also was called Footsie, he said, "Frankie, I need a partner. You want to partner up with me?"
On the floating crap game?
Yeah, so Frankie got a taste of that, and he called Gino and said, "I figured it out finally, Gino. We're going to be building a house for Mom a lot sooner than we thought."
Oh, really? From the crap game, right? Yeah.
So he said, "I'll be with Ringling Brothers about another 6 months." So he took the money he was making, came back, parlayed it, started bookmaking,
numbers,
numbers, a whole bit. And
that was your uncle.
Yeah. So they did their damnedest to keep me away. I was the first.
They wanted to keep you away from that.
Oh yeah, I have a memory from when I was about 3. No, I'm sorry. It would have to be about 5.
Oh, you're getting up in the world. Yeah, 5.
Yeah, my mother dropped me off at my grandmother's, and their yards were joined. We had this little tiny house, and we had the big house that the brothers had built for Grandma Palmina. Amazing woman, raised 8 kids without speaking the language.
Oh, right.
Her husband died of tuberculosis shortly after they were here. But my mother, he died when my mother, Antonio died when my mother was 8. So she had to be a grown-up starting at 8. Brilliant woman, way ahead of her time.
Right, okay,
But held down.
Like so many people,
And so I'm 5 years old, and Mom drops me off at Grandma's, and Grandma was probably on her way out to church, because she went to church every day. And so she said, "Frankie," she called Frankie, "Frankie, water the bambino, watch the baby." So he was probably up half the night, and he'd roll out of bed and say, "Okay," he'd say, "play in the kitchen for a while." And he'd know I'd opened the drawers, I like taking the pots and pans out and banging them, making music.
Making music.
So I remember looking at one of the kitchen drawers and seeing these square red things that the light seemed to shine through with dots on them. So I pulled them out, and I don't know, because I can't remember if I had seen anybody shooting craps yet.
Oh, dice.
But I was shooting craps against the cabinet door. And I remember I drew the dice, totally fascinated, and then I feel myself being picked up by the back of my shirt. And Frankie lifted me up to his face and said, "No, this is not going to be the life we're going to follow."
When I came along, we had depression led a lot of people in bad shape. So we had, when I was growing up in Detroit, we had family, middle class kind of, and everything. There was one woman who was with us like a second mother. So they cooked and that kind of stuff, but it was really part of the family or something. But she was a great influence. She taught me how to shoot crap at about the year of 8. and how to read the racing form, so you could do your mathematics on the fifth of a second, you know. It was great upbringing, you know.
My father loved to play the horses.
Yeah, yeah.
50 cents a buck, because he didn't make that much dough.
Right.
And he was very responsible with us.
Okay, good, yeah.
And
that's
so
important, yeah.
He would get me from childhood. My sister Mary remembers this too. And she's the youngest. She's like 12 years younger than me. And he would say, "Come here, kids, come here, come here. Look at this, read those names." And we'd be reading the names of the horses. And he'd say, "What do you like?" Yeah. And we'd each pick a horse. And if we hit it, he'd give us
good a way as any, I suppose, trying to dope it all up.
And then,
so you were there, you went to school normal way, you went to high school?
Normal grade school, except for the fact that
yes.
More often than not, I'd be after school for joking around or doing something.
Hijinks.
Hijinks, yeah. Nothing serious. And, but we had nothing to do after school. So we'd hang out on the corner. And then we figured out ways of getting into the school at night. So we'd go in there at night to the home ec class and make coffee, and there might be cookies the girls had cooked that day. Because it would be cold out. Yeah, yeah. And we had literally no place to go. And if we stood on the street...
Well, why wouldn't you have been home? You could have been home.
We didn't want to be home.
You didn't want to be home. Okay.
I mean,
you're talking now high school.
Grade school.
Grade school. Okay. Now,
so now in grammar school, if you got into trouble, any extracurricular trouble, after school hours, and I won't go into a lot of detail.
There's probably a great deal we could go into, but that's through the memoir, yeah.
You'd be like one time I was being held after school by Miss Cronin.
Again, by Miss Cronin?
Forgive us, Miss Cronin. She was old then. She had taught our father. And we used to wonder if she had taught our grandfather.
My friend Maggie, you're going to meet her, everything like that. She had to do Latin all of her life, and the teacher's name was Miss Crone. That was her name. We taught her with black, dressed in black, teaching Latin, you know.
Miss Crone.
Miss Crone, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so poor Miss Crone, she was very religious, and back then, even if you were going to a public school, if a little religion got tossed in, nobody said anything.
Yeah.
If you got a backhand across the mouth, nobody said anything. Yeah. Miss Tyrrell...
Those were nuns?
No.
No, not nuns.
This was public school.
Public school. You weren't in the black room.
My fifth grade teacher, if you acted up in class, she would take you outside in the hall, shut the door, and there was a bust of Lincoln on a pedestal, and she would pick you up and bang your head on Lincoln's head and say, "What's wrong with you? If you talk up anyone, it's not that big."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, she wasn't Italian, and we often used to wonder if she hated us.
Because you were Italian.
Yeah. We were Italian.
Yeah,
so in school, with back to the Miss Cronin thing, and getting the extracurricular stuff, she kept me after for fooling around in class. So she would make you write psalms. Yeah. Oh, Lord is my shepherd, I said, you know. And she'd make you write it a million times. So I'm writing it and joking with somebody else. And all of a sudden, some little girl comes in with a note, and Miss Cronin looks at it and says, "You're wanted in the nurse's room." Now that, we all knew that meant the police were at the school. And we would call them.
Do you ever have any altercations with the officers of the law?
Yeah. It started in grammar school.
Yeah, in grammar school.
But it was for like, little things like breaking up something.
Yeah, right.
Breaking, going on somebody's property. Vandalism, because we had nothing better to do.
But you did okay in school, and did you pick up on the books?
Fantastically.
You did well in school, and did you like it? Did you learn?
The teachers were always saying, "You're so intelligent."
Yeah, you is. Yeah, you is.
Why do you do this?
Why do you do this hijinking?
And I would say often, "I'm bored."
Yeah, right. I know the feeling.
And of course, there was no kind of progressive things going on.
Yeah, no John Dewey, huh?
Well, I started playing the guitar when I was 10.
Picked it up young, right? Yeah.
Very young. But by the time I was 14, my father flipped out. And I couldn't keep up. I was already studying out of 4 or 5 music books.
On your own, like, yeah.
Learning tunes. And at 14, some of the older musicians, particularly an incredibly great guitarist named Joe Diorio, would take me on their gigs and say, because that was the way you learned back in the day.
Right, like an apprenticeship.
And say, all right, you can play on this blues. Do you know Out of Nowhere? These are some of the you know such and such.
So you're picking up the music thing all over.
And if you played well, you knew it. If you played badly, you heard about it.
That's right.
And said, look, what are you doing sliding into that note?
Yeah, right,
You either know that's the note or it ain't the note. You either hear it or not. Don't do that anymore.
But you got through the school. You were in the school.
Well, I got there, and then I went to high school, and in high school, I started getting arrested for breach of the peace. And, one time, I literally, we got arrested literally for nothing.
For nothing?
Now, I've told this story before, but I'm going to write it as part of the memoirs, and I'm going to title it something like An Introduction to American Justice.
Oh, all right.
We were in downtown Waterbury. And
just minding our own business.
Well, we're in
the
chocolate shop looking for a young lady.
Yeah, that's been known to happen.
And so we're drinking coffee and flirting and carrying on. And we don't get anywhere, so we decide, let's go out to the lake. We would buy 6-packs and drive out to one of the other lakes, park in the dark and drink and laugh and do what kids do. Who have no place to go. I mean, one of the places we always went happened to be in the section of Brooklyn. We would go to the pool hall there because I used to make a little money there.
By playing pool?
Yeah.
You were a shark?
I wouldn't say I was a shark, because there were a lot of guys in Waterbury who could kill me. But I would hustle.
Yeah, okay.
And I do what they call play on your nerve. And I have no money in my pocket, and you have to win the first game. So you better pick your opponent very carefully. Or you better be able to talk very fast. And run very fast.
You develop your athletic prowess at the end of a fellow chasing you with a meat cleaver or something.
But I was always lucky. So, I'd win 50 cents, $1, $2, $3, $5, $8 here and there. And I'd have a little money to buy coffee and coffee and or see a young lady and say, hey, let me buy you a dance.
It sounds like a really interesting life. It'd be interesting to make a movie, you know. But, but you got through the high school.
So I get through high school, but the one episode I have to tell you about is we're hanging out at the chocolate shop. We come out there, it's a cold night. We head up North Main, and we cut onto Water Street, and then there was a little alley. Nobody walks through there but us at night.
Why? Because it was dangerous? Or?
They might have thought it was, but it was a short little alley.
Yeah, right.
And it was off the street, so sometimes we'd go there and be smoking a cigarette and hang out. Because you got to understand, the town, the city police were all Irish. And as I had one tell me, and folks, forgive me for using one of those words we're not supposed to say, but how the fuck else can you say it? Because I'm quoting the cop now, you have to understand. He had us interrogating us for some bullshit thing or other, and 3 or 4 of us, and he said, you guineas, you dagos, we were used to that. He said, you know what you are, you know what you are. And obviously it's a rhetorical question, so we just kind of, we know enough not to talk. Your niggas turn inside out.
Oh, God.
So then there were the blacks, there were the Italians, there were a few Portuguese then.
What about Jews? Did they have a thing against Jews?
I'm sure they did.
Oh,
they were equal opportunity haters.
haters, Anyway, so you're the... Go on,
So anyway, we're in the alley, not doing a thing. So somebody grabbed somebody else's hat. There were 9 of us. throws it up in the air, and everybody's keeping the hat from someone.
Yeah, a joke, yeah. Okay.
So I look at Matty Kerrigan, who's got his father's car. He was one of the Irish guys who hung with him.
Yeah, right.
And his father, well, he liked to drink all the time, and so when we say, Big Matty, can we borrow the car? Yeah, here's the keys. Nobody had licenses. Nobody. You jump in the car, Matty would drive. Yeah. And we'd go where we had to go. And so Armand D'Alessio was with me, 2 to 3 of us. And then there's Rudy, Richie, Ronnie Cordone. Yeah. And Frog. The old gang Frog. Yeah. It's like something like American Graffiti or something. Yeah, almost. So gangster style. Gangster. I mean, if we were alive today and we'd be gangbangers. Yeah, okay. But then it was fists. Yeah, okay. Maybe chains or a stick or a knife once in a while. So anyway, I say to Matty and Armin, I said, oh, man, it's cold. Let's go. We got the 6-pack. Let's go walk up to your car. And he was way up North Elm. So we walk up, and we get up to the car, and all of a sudden, we see this cop, Officer Breen, who liked to drink on the job, and he hated our guts. He hated everybody's guts. He pokes his head around the corner of the alley, and he says, hey, fellas, come on back down there for a minute. So we look up at one another like, yeah, right. I mean, we're streetwise enough. We're not going to come back. But then he goes back in the alley. So we talk it over. We say, well, look, if he really wanted us, he would have never taken his eyes off us. He would have pulled his gun, in fact. I said, so Matty said, well, let's go down. It might be good for some laughs. Because we figured we haven't done anything. Yeah. We get back down to the alley. We turn off North Elm into the alley. Bam! We're thrown against the wall. Get against the fucking wall, you fucking guinea pig. Oh, we didn't do anything. Well, shut up. And so his partner's there who had a hair lip. So he starts like, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on? And so Breen says, get against the wall. So Armin says, fuck you, cocksucker. So Breen clubs him with all his might. Armin was big guy, not a big guy. Yeah, right. That's what I meant, yeah. But he was like a cabaldos, we say in Italian, a hardhead. He hit him so hard in the forehead that he knocked his head into the bricks of the alley wall. And Armin is so stubborn and so much spirit that when he gets hit and hits the back wall, his knees buckle, he starts to go. Now I'm on one side and I'm leaping toward Breen because at that point we're not above jumping him and taking his gun. And he knows though, because he's harassed us before and other people as bad or worse than us. And he's back, and as he's pulling his gun on the other side of the alley and rubbing on us at us, Armin is leaving, and I could see him trying to say something. And he said, fuck you, you're still a cocksucker. And he refused to go on. I don't know how he survived it. If it was me, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So Breen pulls his gun, and he's drunk now, you gotta understand. On duty? Yeah. Which was nothing new for him. He pulls his gun, and he's saying, run, you sons of bitches, you fucking dogos, run. He said, because there's 9 of you, and I'm going to get 6 of you no matter how it goes. Woo! So you better run because you're going to, at least some of you, I'll miss some of you. And you could look in his eyes and see he needs it. That was a moment. And he's drunk enough to do it. It's one of those moments like how much he hated his life and whatever it was that put him in that thing, that it was all coming to a head. In the meantime, his partner, who was the same cop, he was the one with the hair lip, he had gone to get the wagon, and so to haul us off. And so he came back just in the nick of time. And we're frozen like statues while he's ordering us to run. And I know I was thinking, I think I'm going to run because standing still, he ain't going to miss. If I'm running, I got a chance. And all of a sudden you hear from around the corner of the alley, hey, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he had the hell if he couldn't talk.
Mm.
And it kind of, and Breen turned to him and said, none of your fucking business.
Mm.
Go back, go back. But this guy took it upon himself to try to talk Breen down.
Was he able to?
And he refused to leave. So Breen probably had enough sense to know this guy ain't going to take a rap shooting kids for me. And he's a witness, so what's he going to do? Shoot his own partner?
But it was a serious confrontation.
Oh, it was serious.
That's all so interesting, man. We ought to put this all down in video. This is a memoir. You could be your memoir. One of the
Well,
problems...
we went to court.
Okay, go on.
When we went to court,
Yeah.
they lied, of course.
Yeah,
And Herlip lied for his partner. He wasn't about to go down, but he lied. And so we realized it was kangaroo court time, because we had been in on lesser confrontations, breaching of peace for being drunk, or loud mufflers, or talking back to the cop. You know, telling him, "I'm doing. You get off my back while you hassling me." You know, so they drum up a charge.
Yeah, I wish we had 20 hours.
Oh yeah,
we only got you to high school, not even to high school. We got a whole life ahead of us. We got to get to some of that. We got to read some of your poetry. We got to tell some stuff.
All right, okay, so manage me.
Yeah. Well, it's just we've got...
Should I read a poem now so people don't think I'm a stone gangster all of my life?
No, you're not a stone gangster or everything like that.
Not.
Yeah, okay, you want to read a poem? You got a poem. Because you're a poet and you're a musician, we're going to play some of your music. You've been out in Berkeley. You had that place on 26th Street, 7th Avenue, where all the jazz guys, Archie Shepp, would fall by and all that.
Maybe we should have a piece of music.
Okay, let's see. Maybe we can. You've got a couple CDs, right?
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to play some music, because you've been a serious musician. You jammed with some of the best jazz guys in the world and everything. They would come to your loft,
and
I know, 3 in the morning after a gig.
Also,
and you were doing that. So, yeah, we got a CD and we got to play. So maybe they could. Joshua's in the control room, and maybe we could play that, and we could play that, some of the music.
Yeah.
Can get it, and then we'll show some of your art where the music's playing maybe, okay?
Yeah,
because your life story could just go, it's just really fascinating.
I know, it goes from one
So
to
Joshua, maybe you could go ahead and play the first unit, and then we'll put some art up that you can come and play, and some of the pictures of the CDs and stuff like that. So let's play that music now. We'll listen, we'll show some of the art too. Okay. Talking with Michael Sangeeta Berardi. Okay, let's hear them. There we go.
that.
Okay, that's beautiful. We tried to show some of this art. That was a gentle piece. That was
yeah,
really
it's
beautiful.
called Invocation Morning Prayer.
Okay, yeah.
And it's pretty much, in terms of the CD, it leads to my version of Central Park West that was written by John Coltrane.
Coltrane, you were into jazz, or you have been all along.
Coltrane was probably my heaviest influence.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's another piece that we're going to play on this CD? Or we're
Well, I
going to go
thought they were going to let...
Maybe the second cut?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, we might talk over this
Yeah,
a little bit,
yeah,
maybe if they
because
bring the
this-
volume down a little.
Because this is a longer piece.
Yeah. So this is your composition. You play guitar,
Yes.
and you've also played other, and you did...
Yeah, I used to play saxophone and flute also.
Uh-huh.
And I taught myself a little piano. I wouldn't call myself a piano player.
No, but...
I mean, actually, the only thing I did call myself would be guitarist.
a guitarist,
Because
yeah.
all the others, I just
How did
taught
you get the
myself.
handle Sangeeta?
Well, I was playing at an ashram in San Francisco. Dr. Ramanurthy Mishra. He's since crossed over. And another yogi named Sant Kesavadas heard me playing. And he was a very musical person himself. He had written hundreds and hundreds of devotional songs.
Yes.
And he played the harmonium, you know, with
Like
keyboard.
Alan used to play the harmonium.
That's right,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh,
yeah.
the first time I met Alan, and I think it turned out to be the only time I saw Alan, was when he lived on Avenue C
Yeah,
in
well,
65, because he lived near 10th, I think, or 9th or something. I was living with my wife, Marisa,
yeah.
on C between 5th and 6th, I think. And
In the 60s, you're talking?
yeah, that was
right.
1965.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
But you had asked me something else, and I strolled off into the ozone.
Oh, no. I was just saying it's just that I know, you see, that your life is so interesting that you've had all, but you've been involved in music. And you
Oh, yeah, all of my
And you
life.
did have that place on, there was really a
Oh,
great
right,
place
the
on
Loft.
26. Yeah, the Loft.
And that's what it became known as. I mean, it was known to people that I didn't even know it was known to.
Yeah, right.
But I also knew that it was really getting a certain amount of attention that was both good and could be problematic.
Okay.
When someone was down at the Village Vanguard one night, a musician who used to come to the Loft. And when he came up to the Loft that night, he said, Geeta. I said, what's happening? He said, I was down at the Vanguard and I heard two Japanese tourists talking about, we go to the Loft. I mean,
Word was getting
it
around.
never got to that.
But I
because-
remember we were there. And it was sort of in a parking lot, and it wasn't like houses around. So, and you had all the instruments, all the jazz instruments, and people would go to Sweet Basil or something. Archie Shepp would come, and other
Archie,
people,
because
and they would
Archie-
come by, and then they would just wail with all the instruments
Oh,
were
yeah,
there.
and whoever was there, we
Yeah.
played in all kinds of
Do you
combinations.
record? You recording any of that?
I
Did you get some of
I
that
mean,
down?
I was pretty poor back then.
Yeah, right,
I still am, but I did record a lot of that on cassette.
Yeah.
And actually, what I need to find in California is a technical assistant. Someone who could navigate the software
Yeah.
that someone has given me to clean up those tapes, to remaster them, and to put them out.
That'd be a good thing.
Because it's all very unique stuff, like Pharoah Sanders used to come
Pharoah
every night
Sanders,
for a while.
great.
And Pharoah said to me one time, he said, the stuff you have with me, he said, you got me playing another way
That's right.
than I play in the club.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact,
yeah.
Pharoah, the first time we played together, it wasn't the first time we played together. I sat in with him in Berkeley at a club called Mackenzie before I moved back to New York. But he actually played my saxophone.
Really?
And Idris Muhammad, who was the drummer in his band at the time, was there. And so I had never Dries, we had never played together. So the three of us played together for the first time. And I happened to be playing the tape back one afternoon, and I don't recall who the musicians were who stopped by, because a lot of people were in and out.
People would fall by 3 in the morning.
But they heard this tape, and they thought it was an undiscovered John Coltrane. They said, Peter, where'd you get this train tape? I said, yes, we did. Because Farrell was playing more in the vein of later Train. I mean, he does that on his own, but somehow, I mean, Dries put it to me this way, because he stayed that night, everybody left. And I
Farrell Saunders now.
No, Farrell left. He went to go home to Brooklyn.
Well, people go, the sun comes up and some people go home, you know,
And sometimes in the case of the left, at 9 a.m., people would be knocking out for the day shift. So I got into some bad habits there.
Well,
I couldn't do this without chemical fortification.
Well, really, people could, but they do, but it's still great to have a place where you can go. Instead of having being all structured in a club, you come by and then magic can happen.
And that's exactly what I wanted, and people started realizing, hey, when we go to Beatles he's not there saying, now this is what we're going to play. And you know, beboppers showed up, we played bebop. Rashid Ali was there every night, and we were very, very tight back then. In fact, if I showed up at the Vanguard to hear somebody without him, they'd say, where's your big bro? If he showed up, where's your little brother? I mean, we were together all the time, and we made a lot of music together. In fact, one of the CDs, but it's a single 26-minute piece. It's just me and Rashid, so you know we wouldn't be able to play it. But we would play whatever anybody wanted to play.
And you get.
But we also, it was an environment that encouraged experimentation.
You had all you had the sax, you had all the instruments, you just whip it up.
I had an 88 key electric piano with weighted keys, so it felt like a real piano. And on tape, it sounds like one off.
And you could play that, and it was just it was industrial. It wasn't like they got a great big old high rise there now. I went by it the other day. They got a Whole Food thing and all that, and so you got people living.
I'm gonna have to try to get by there while I'm in town.
And you could sit out on that fire escape and look at 7th Avenue and whatnot.
Oh, we used to sit out there and watch the lovely young ladies from FIT.
Well, that too, in the sunset. Or in the sunrise.
Hollering and whistling.
Yeah, having a good time.
Right? Yeah, taking a break from you. But you know, when I left San Francisco, that was when my family, my wife and I decided to separate. And the kids stayed with her, my twin daughters, Tara and Naima.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I said a little prayer. I said, you know, I don't ask for much in life, but please let me end up in a place where I can play music 24 hours a day, and I don't have to be killing roaches constantly like I did on the east side in Alphabet City, and on Houston Street and Essex Street.
Had a lot of time in New York.
And I got that. I got that because my girlfriend Desiree, we would fix up the upstairs loft.
You're talking about on 27th Avenue,
This is the way it started.
Right around the corner from the Center for Media Arts. We used to make programs as the Center for Media Arts. Right around the corner on 26th.
I remember walking by there.
It closed down now.
And wondering what it was.
That was the Center for Media Arts.
Somehow never,
that was sort of like a precursor to this here, because it was television and whatnot. You could.
That's the thing you told me at the time, but I didn't realize you were involved.
Frankie used to come by. Frankie would be
Stunad, Frankie. He never told me, or maybe he didn't. I was too stunad to remember.
That was good though. But you were in New York a lot of the time, but you've also been in San Francisco.
I go back and forth.
And it came out of Waterbury, Connecticut, right?
Well, that's not the only thing. I just found out about it, the young guy named Fusco. I think John Fusco, who wrote a book called Paradise Junkyard, or Paradise Salvage. It's a book about Waterbury. He's a Waterbury that hit the big time from what they were telling me the other night. And Joe Diorio is a jazz master. But like me, neither one of us can play publicly anymore. He had a stroke. So he's piecing it together. And me,
you can't play anything but castanets and maracas anymore now. But
in my second vocation, in the kitchen, I'm the king of shake and bake.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good.
But the loft, there was a lot of magic about it. I mean, Idris Muhammad, who is a very devout Muslim, and he's a cook, as well as a master drummer and a great producer.
Yeah.
He came here that first time because Farrell was telling him, you got to come to this dude Sangeeta's loft.
Archie Shepp came back?
Oh, yeah. See, Archie and I go back further than me and Farrell. We go back to the 60s, past Cross.
Yeah, that was early,
And then in 1979, when I got my first the first opportunity I took to do a recording under my name, I called Archie right away, and he said, well, definitely, I'm down for it. And I got Roswell Rudd to play trombone.
Wow, yeah.
Because I loved the band they had, that Archie had, that he had Roswell. And I got Eddie Gomez to play bass, and Rashid Ali to play drums.
Boy, you were in with
And I had another bass player named Mario Pavone, another fine player, because certain pieces I wanted two basses.
Yeah.
For instance, we played Summertime, because I always still did a mix of standards that I love. And things I write or just spontaneous improvisation.
You've been doing a lot of writing now. You're writing your memoirs and that.
Yes,
you're writing other stuff.
Yeah, because I'm putting all the energy that I was putting into music is now focused on the writing.
Right.
Whereas before, the energy would be in music notes all the time.
Yeah, right.
Some of it that was left would go into drawing and painting.
Right, you did a lot
some
of...
would go into writing.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do any extended writing pieces because I just can't work that way, because when I get fixated on a story and I couldn't complete it, so I'd have to carry it around in my head like a lead weight while I'm trying to play music, so I'd only dash off poems here and there. Or short things.
But you were sure in touch with a lot of interesting people and things that were going on, not the least of which was Mr. Petriccolo.
Oh, definitely.
Frankie's there like a ton of... He was such a talent.
Well, I went up.
He and Michael Horowitz.
Oh, without a doubt.
They're Null and Boyd. They were the best comedy team.
When they came to California, they stayed at my house on Peralta, just on this side of the mission. For about 3 months, I think. We all jammed together.
That's great,
They went out and did gigs from there.
And you got a lot of friends in the Frisco, in the Bay Area.
Yeah, well, you know, I have some friends there, but the close ones are from here that were out there. I know people who are from there or from somewhere else and they landed there.
Yeah, and you landed up...
But you know, I mean, if I have to be totally honest, I was telling my daughter, Tala, I said, look, this is home because you're here.
This is where?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
This is home only because
you're here.
You're here, and Carter and Lena, my gorgeous grandchildren, and your wonderful husband.
But my heart
Chester is here, and Marisa, my ex-wife, is there. We're great friends.
Right.
And my other daughter, Naima, and her husband, Eric, are in Arizona. I said, that's family and home to me.
Right.
But I have none of that feeling whatsoever for the state of California.
Really?
Or the environment. I've lived there many years.
So what do you like?
When I come here, New York feels like home. Upstate feels like home because I lived in Woodstock and Newport. And Waterbury feels like home. And the East Coast in general, I'm at home.
Welcome back to the East Coast. You've been out there on the West Coast. It's so good you're here visiting.
And I'm only going to be here a month. I told my sister already, I said, next time it's got to be at least 2 months.
2 months,
This is a little more intense stuff.
Yeah, right. I hope it's not too loud because we're talking over it.
Yeah, I hope they're not fascinated by the music.
Yeah, right. They might be
they're just bullshitting out there.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
Right. We don't care about all that talk.
Well, I think you were leading somewhere.
Well, I'm not sure where, but I mean, because your life
well,
is so...
we were talking about getting in trouble. Well, see, the thing started to escalate. You know,
I think we should turn off the music now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're coming. You only got a couple minutes left, so we got to...
Really?
Yeah, goes fast.
58 minutes?
Yeah, 56 going and counting.
Let me read it.
Quick, do it quick. We've only got a second. We've only got it.
Inside my head, the dark face with luminous eyes floating inside my head says, Aku. I've never heard this word, but instantly know Aku means greetings. My mind responds, hello. The inner voice says, Aku Akembi. Instantaneously, the meaning of Aku Akembi is revealed. Greetings to you, your family, your clan, your ancestors. My inner eye sees a continuum of crystal cubes extending from now to a distant infinitesimal black hole whirling in the matrix of light. Inside each transparent cube, I see families of ancestors smiling and moving their lips, speaking silent words to me.
Better run the credits.
I am swept swiftly through multiple space-time realities, mesmerized, eyes open, unblinking as a cobra under the hypnotic spell of the charmer's flute. Nanoseconds, whirl inside seconds, whirling inside minutes, spinning inside hours.
Go, man, go!
Turning inside days, dancing inside years, spiraling into light years, disappearing into infinity.
Yeah.
The voice inside my head calls me back, asking, Uruku. Instantly I know the lips. Sangeeta. The voice questions, Uruku, I am a man. Uruku, I am a praying for peace and love. Uruku, I am an animal made from the stuff of stars who thinks and feels pain. Uruku, I am all my ancestors merged in this being known to me as I. Uruku, I am a miracle of atoms and molecules spinning in space-time. Uruku, I am a phantom wandering through a maze of dreams. Uruku, I am a tattoo on the body of infinity. Uruku,